It is March 24th, 2017, and we are one more week down in the 85th legislative session. I am Josh Sanderson, your Deputy Executive Director, and welcome to the Equity Center's Legislative Update. In the week behind us, Senate Bill 3, the Senate's voucher proposal, was heard in Senate Education. And Senate Bill 1, the Senate's proposal for the state budget, was heard in Senate Finance. Senate Bill 3, the Senate's voucher proposal, has a cost of up to $330 million for the next 2 years alone, and that amount is projected to increase over time. The measure was finally passed out of the Senate on Thursday morning. It will be now sent to the Senate floor for further consideration. The state budget, Senate Bill 1, the only bill in the legislative session that is required to pass, passed the Senate Finance Committee on Wednesday. The bill includes $106.3 billion in general revenue discretionary spending. This is relevant because if you compare that amount to the current biennium, it's $1 billion less than we are currently spending. If you look just at the education portion of the budget, there's $1.4 billion less in state general revenue for education compared to the last biennium. Of this $106.3 billion in general revenue is an additional $2.65 billion to fund enrollment growth. It's important to note that this $2.65 billion is new funding, but it is not additional funding per student. It's just funding to accommodate the extra 82,000 students per year who are projected to enroll in public schools every year over the next 2 years. Also included in Senate Bill 1 is an increase in the Tier 2 golden penny yield level to $99.85 in 2018 and $106.37 in 2019. The cost of this is projected to be $1.05 billion. This $1.05 billion and the $2.65 billion to fund enrollment growth are not new state dollars. Instead, that money comes out of increases in projected property valuations over the next biennium. Also in Senate Bill 1 is $316 million to fund the shortfall in TRS Care, the retiree health care program. It's important to note that the total shortfall is just over $1 billion, leaving over $700 million to either be made up through increased contributions from active employees in school districts or out-of-pocket expenses and premiums from retirees. There's also a somewhat controversial deferral of $2.5 billion of highway funding that was created in 2015 in the Senate budget so that it balances. The House has already stated that they disagree with this deferral, and it's yet another point of contention between the House and Senate. The House budget has yet to pass the House Appropriations Committee, but it's important to note that they also fund enrollment growth and the increase in Tier 2 golden pennies, largely from increases in district property valuations. The House differs from the Senate because it includes a contingency rider that states that $1.47 billion in additional general revenue will be added to the public education budget as long as a $1.87 billion deferral payment is passed. This accounting method has been used in 2003 and in 2011, so it's not necessarily new. Another point to be made within the budget is a small microcosm of the overall arguments between the House, the Senate, and the governor's office on how the budget should be structured. At the beginning of the legislative session, the governor asked that the House and Senate fund $236 million for the governor's high-quality pre-K grant program. This amount is double the amount of funding allocated for the current biennium. The Senate only funded $65 million of this amount, and they did it in a manner that is a public-private partnership instead of the high-quality pre-K grant. The House funded $147 million and chose to funnel it through the formulas instead of the high-quality grant program. Again, a point of contention not just between the House and Senate, but also the governor's office. Other happenings this week, House Bill 21 was discussed yet again within the House Public Education Committee, showing how much effort they are actually putting into this effort. We expect to see the committee substitute late this week or early next week, and we expect to vote shortly. The House Ways and Means Committee held a hearing that included several school finance-related bills, and they had an in-depth discussion on recapture and any implications and changes to recapture. In the week ahead, the Senate Finance Committee is going to hear Senate Bill 9, which proposes a new constitutional spending limit. This is relevant because currently we have 4 constitutional spending limits that limit the rate of growth and the amount of money we spend on the Texas budget every 2 years. If passed, Senate Bill 9 would further restrict that amount. The implications there are the amount of money we have to spend on public education could be reduced. Senate Bill 1 is expected to be voted out of the Texas Senate and sent on to the Texas House, where we'll see the House budget numbers in more detail. As always, if you have questions or comments, please contact us here at the Equity Center and make sure to stay tuned for next week's legislative update.